Now, Beverly Hallberg, president of District Media Group, and Aaron Delmore, senior political correspondent for Bustle.com. You got to hand it to the publisher, Aaron. He's gotten a lot of visitors. A lot of people have taken him up on the offer. Japanese television, for instance, has come to his little corner of southwestern Ohio to see what he's talking about.
Yeah, this is part of the after effect of the election, when people turned around, looked to each other and said, how could the polling be so far off? Who are these massive droves of people who came out in support of the president? Now, some of the generalizations in that article, some of the more negative terms on how these voters can be described, of course, there's room for all kinds of voters in the Trump tent. We've seen a lot of people who voted on repealing Obamacare, a lot of people who voted on cutting taxes. It is important to understand the whole coalition of voters when you make sense of what's going on in American politics today.
Beverly, 76% of the people in his county in southwest Ohio voted for Donald Trump, and from the sounds of things, they still like what the president is doing today. Are the big, East Coast, West Coast media missing that story?
Oh, I think so, and I applaud the Ohio Times-Gazette for extending this meet and greet. I actually think as Americans, this is what we should be doing, is getting to understand each other, because as you mentioned, Trump voters often have these negative labels attached to them, but when you meet a Trump voter, you realize it's a variety of reasons, whether it's for tax reform, which we're talking about on Capitol Hill, whether it's being tired of politics as usual. So I love that this is what the newspaper is doing, what the town is doing, and I hope many reporters take them up on it and also report the truth about what a Trump voter really is.
He says that the folks in his particular corner of Ohio, Aaron, blame politics as usual for obstructing the things that the president wants to get done.
It's a huge challenge for President Trump. He's pushed his agenda. He said, I want a massive infrastructure bill. I want tax reform, a repeal of Obamacare. I want a border along the southern wall with Mexico. But without cooperation and support, especially from Republicans in Congress, we're not seeing any of those come to fruition. He's going to run on this in a couple of years, so they've got to see some progress.
Well, at the same time, Aaron, the president, according to the latest polls, has only something like an approval rating in the high 30s, 36, 38%. That's typically not something that wins you re-election. Is that another example of the media and the polls missing the point, or missing some of the real feelings out there?
Well, look at the exit polling from Virginia. The voters who exited Tuesday's vote, 50% of them said that President Trump was a factor in how they voted. Now, here's the problem for Republicans. The number, half of them there, said that they voted for the Democratic candidate. And so when you see this kind of momentum going toward the Democrats, that's when you see the effect of the president's approval rating.
All right, Beverly, let's take a look at another story that's kind of caught our radar. Russian television network RT has agreed to register with the U.S. as a foreign agent, reportedly after months of fighting with the Justice Department. Kind of interesting that in this landscape, when the Russians are accused of trying to meddle with the election and so forth, one of their media outlets has to register as a foreign agent. Is that appropriate?
Well, when you take a look at the investigation and what we do know about it, it came out in January that there were concerns about not just financial ties, but also some legal ties to the Kremlin. So I think there are some legs in this DOJ story, but I understand why RT is fighting this so hard. We have more Russian news these days than we've ever had, probably since the Cold War era. And even when you take a look at Hillary Clinton's and the DNC ties to the Russian dossier, I understand why RT is fighting as hard as they are. But I would give it to the DOJ. They have concerns, and I think we should take that seriously.
We're a country that values freedom of the press. Aaron, what about freedom of the Russian press?
We're also a country that has a law in the books saying that if you are operating as an arm of a foreign government, you have to register with the DOJ. That's FAR law. That's what's being imposed here.
All right. Interesting discussion. Beverly, Aaron, thanks very much.
Thank you.